Okay.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ask an Archaeologist. My name's Katie. I'm a staff member at the Phoebe A. Hearst Museum of Anthropology. And firstly, I just want to thank everyone for your patience in us getting started a little late this morning. We're dealing with some weird technical difficulties. We think maybe we're going to be talking about demonology later. Maybe there's some demons in the mix here in our computers, but I'm really thrilled to welcome Dr. Rita Lucarelli today. And sorry, now we're dealing with some different issues here. So I'm excited to welcome Dr. Rita Lucarelli today. And just to let you all know, before we jump into our conversation, a little bit about the series. Ask an Archaeologist is a series of live streamed interviews co-hosted by the Archaeological Research Facility and the Phoebe A. Hearst Museum of Anthropology, both located at the University of California, Berkeley. And before we get started, also, I wanted to let you know that you can ask questions during the chat today. You'll find the chat box either to the right-hand side or just below your YouTube video screen. And feel free to drop questions in there, and we'll try to get to as many as possible during our conversation today. And so, Rita, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry for these technical difficulties, but I hope we'll be able still to present.
I'm sure we're all used to the bizarreness of technical difficulties in the current day and age. So Rita Lucarelli is a faculty curator of Egyptology at the Phoebe A. Hearst Museum of Anthropology, and which is at the University of California, Berkeley, and a fellow of the Digital Humanities in Berkeley. She's presently working at a project aiming at realizing 3D models of ancient Egyptian coffins at the Hearst Museum. The magical spells decorating these objects are taken as a case study for investigating the materiality of the text in relation to ancient Egyptian funerary literature. Rita is also completing a monograph on demonology in ancient Egypt, and she is one of the coordinators of the Ancient Egyptian Demonology Project, the link to which you can find in the description for this video. So thank you so much for being here, and I wanted to get started by just welcoming you to share some slides and talk to us a little bit about how about the projects that you're working on and how digital humanities, 3D technology, and VR are all working together to help in the study of ancient Egypt.
Thank you, Katie. So I'll start sharing my video. I hope so. Can you see it now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Yes,
yeah, and folks, feel free to let us know in the chat if there's anything weird going on that we should know about.
Yeah, so indeed, I hope it's, the image is big enough. I have a few videos to show, to present to you indeed my main project, but especially then deal with the new phase of this project called the Book of the Dead in 3D. Here you can see the homepage of the website of this project. And indeed, the Book of the Dead in 3D applies photogrammetry to the study of the ancient Egyptian coffins in order to realize annotated 3D to realize annotated 3D visualizations of these artifacts and their textual decoration. The name of the project, Book of the Dead in 3D, is because many of these decorations belong to the corpus of the so-called Book of the Dead in ancient Egypt. And this project is born in 2015. Until now has produced 18 models of previously unpublished ancient Egyptian coffins, most of which are kept in the storage rooms of the Hearst Museum in Berkeley. But we also expanded and the project by realizing models of coffins kept in other Egyptian collections in the US. For instance, we've been working with the Global Museum of San Francisco State University, the Legion of Honor in San Francisco, the San Diego Museum of Man, and many others. And so main aim of the project is to build a coffin database in 3D to be shared through a digital viewer, so that those fragile, often inaccessible artifacts will be available to the scholarly community, but also to the museum visitors and public at large. And here you see indeed screenshots of the various coffins we've been working on, and today I will focus on one in particular, which has been my first case study, on which also another phase of this project, or better, a new project in itself, is born. And this is indeed the sarcophagus lid of Psamtek, the so-called doctor, since Psamtek was indeed a doctor, but also a high official in 26th dynasty Egypt. You can see in this video how in the digital viewer of the project we also add a lot of information, metadata on the piece. So in introduction on who was Psamtek, but also we let the video go on. Also we provide annotations with the text translation and transcription. And indeed, while photogrammetry is spreading quickly as a favorite technique for disseminating ancient Egyptian artifacts, it is becoming clear that in order to be able to properly study a decorated inscribed object, the quality of the photographs and the resulting model is crucial, especially when adding metadata information on the model. And the so-called annotations, the related annotated 3D models, are a new direction in the field of 3D modeling and reconstructions. And so the aim of the annotations is indeed, as you can see here, to provide friendly user access to the object's metadata through those indeed information embedded in each model and accessible through the digital viewers. And scholars right now indeed are working on projects where the 3D models can be annotated with the available historical, philological, prosopographical data for each object, like in the case of this sarcophagus lid, and the development of software and digital methods for annotating the models is also growing, as well as the recognized importance for cultural heritage dissemination. And so the doctor, as I was saying, has been my first case study, and it has been really fascinating to study this masterpiece of the ancient Egyptian funerary culture and art. So reconstructing its archaeological provenance, translating the text carved on the lid. And by the way, now the doctor is also available to be admired in the gallery space of the Hearst Museum. So I invite everybody to visit the museum, and you'll find him right at the entrance. And this is a sarcophagus lid which is 2 tons heavy, is long 246 meters, is made in basalt, so a heavy gray stone, which was used at that time for producing statues and sarcophagi like this one for royal and non-royal persons. And so Psamtek, we've been seeing his name in the annotation, is spelled phonetically, was a chief of physicians and commander of Libyan troops called Temehu, and these 2 main titles are also inscribed on his lid together with his name many times. So Psamtek was very proud of it. And as I said, he lived during the 26th dynasty of the ancient Egyptian history, corresponding more or less to the half of the 6th century BC, so around 600, 500 BC. This is a period in Egypt characterized by archaism in art, from architectural style of tombs to themes of reliefs. And so Egyptologists call this period a Saite Renaissance from Sais, which was the capital in the north. And high officials like Psamtek were well advanced in preparing, were well in advance preparing their tomb in cemeteries close to the ancient glorious pyramids of the kings of the Old Kingdom. So in Saqqara and in Giza, you can see it on the map. In northern Egypt. The Saqqara cemetery has so far the largest concentration of Saite sarcophagus tombs, approximately 12 tombs among and among those also the ones of Psamtek, which lies on the south of the pyramid of Unas, the last pharaohs of Dynasty Fifth. And at the moment there is an important archaeological mission working in this said necropolis and led by Ramadan Hussein. And so today I wish to present you especially a new collaborative project which is born by my previous work on the sarcophagus lid of Psamtek, and based on the integration indeed of my work on the coffin, on the sarcophagus lid, with the work of another Egyptologist and digital humanist from UC Santa Cruz, Hélène Sullivan, an expert for the geospatial models of ancient Egyptian ritual landscapes. So maybe you can read here also the names of the other members of the project. The project is also directed by Chris Hoffman from Research IT of UC Berkeley, with the team manager, and I will introduce you the students team in a moment. So the scope of this project, which we entitled indeed Return to the Tomb, we thought this was a really good title, because indeed the scope is to bring back the sarcophagus of Psamtek to the tomb, better the lid, because the rest of the sarcophagus is not in Berkeley. But anyway, bring back the sarcophagus, virtually reconstructing the tomb of Psamtek, which the user of an app that we are developing can visit in order to view the sarcophagus in its original environment and explore the variegated dimensions of the ancient Egyptian funerary religion, magic, and sacred spaces through immersive experience and visualization designed for a VR app. And so with this project, we hope to disseminate an example of ancient Egyptian funerary culture to the public and to create new spaces for students and museum visitors, new virtual spaces in order to engage with the scholarly contents. As I will show to you in a moment through a demo, beside visiting the tomb, the user of this app can read the text translation of the magical text carved on the lid within the tomb. And so in other words, we can say that through immersive visualization, VR, or also AR, so augmented reality applications, scholars, students, the interested public can be able to navigate from the larger landscapes, so the necropolis, to the monument, the tomb, and to the magically inscribed sarcophagus in its ancient context. So I'll show you, as I said, a moment how that works with a headset. Of course, you will need an headset. I prepared just a demo for that. But before that, I would like to acknowledge the fantastic work made by our student team, mixed student team from the University of California, Berkeley, and Santa Cruz. And well, all digital humanities projects combine the expertise of humanists with knowledge of the material and written culture, of the ancient material written culture, as well as the expertise of computer science scholars skilled in software development and coding. And indeed, our students team was mixed, includes graduate students of Egyptology as well as of computer science, and they made an amazing work. So I can show you this other small clip. They've been working on the 3D model realized through photogrammetry on the sarcophagus lid, and then reconstruct the tomb. How you reconstruct the tomb for an app? Well, you can use the archaeological reports when you have it. You can use photos. We found some photos even on the internet, others provided by indeed Ramadan Hussein, which I wish to thank, from Tübingen, and leading his mission, archaeological mission there. And of course, you have to take care of scaling everything, adding the important information, so selecting also the information that is useful in this kind of virtual environment. And we've been, for instance, in this case, we had an archaeological report on the tomb and the sarcophagus from 1900 in French by the first archaeologist to enter this tomb. So we used all this together in order to realize the reconstructions of the tomb. And so this is a demo. You have to imagine, of course, to have the headset. It works for now with the Vive headset. We have also, I don't know if you can hear the sounds.
In the high desert,
west of the user can add a narrating voice.
It is the 26th dynasty,
explaining
otherwise known as the Sayite period.
Where you are. Can you hear the audio? Okay, great.
When high
so this is my colleague Hélène
of the elite,
presenting the landscape, the necropolis.
Wanted to be buried near the pyramids.
And the user kind of arrived basically from the sky, lands in the necropolis and of Saqqara in the cemetery. And so you see also the pyramids as they were at the time of when the tomb of Psamtek was made. And then you can teletransport yourself, descend into the tomb. And once in the tomb, we are still working on the texture of the old tomb. We are waiting to see the results indeed of the tomb excavation and epigraphic survey to add more details. But what we've been working until now is made sure that indeed the sarcophagus lid can be really experienced in full by clicking on the text and be able to see better the hieroglyphs. So we have the hieroglyphic transcriptions that we've been encoding in the app together with the translation. And so the user, as you can see in this demo, can point to the section of text that wants to read and see the translation. This was a typical text for this kind of sarcophagus lid, protective spells originating from the pyramid text. So very old spells from the 3rd millennium BC, sometimes mixed with the later magical spells also found in the Book of the Dead. And so in all this text, the gods speak and say that they will protect Psamtek. So this is why the text is like words to be said by Nephthys, words to be said by Isis. Psamtek, your body will not be tired. We can read in column 3. And so we hope that in this way, this will be an app that is useful. It has especially is useful as an educational tool, so can be used to learn more about the ancient Egyptian funerary culture. And of course, for a more scholarly study, one can look then at the publication with the old philological commentary that anyway we are embedding also in the website. So for this app, what we wanted to realize is indeed sort of educational tool, also to be used in museums to present the museum objects in their own original context. So imagine how indeed the sarcophagus lid that now we see in a museum gallery space where it was originally. And so you cannot see in this demo, but when you are in the tomb, you also have the real feeling of how small but fully decorated it was. These were the so-called shaft tombs. So there was a shaft 30-meter deep, bringing to the burial, the only burial chamber, which was also very small and contained this huge stone sarcophagi. And yes, so I guess
If
that's
you don't
it.
mind if you don't mind my interjecting here, we're having some great questions from the audience.
Oh, okay,
I also
great.
want to call attention to what an incredible project this is at so many levels to help contextualize these objects that people encounter in museums or online, and it's really hard to visualize where and how they existed in their own time. And we're getting a couple of different questions, both about the tech side of things and about the history of the objects themselves. But maybe I'll start with a more general question, and then we'll get to a couple of the audience questions. It seems like this was a really interdisciplinary team that you were working with here, both from many different kinds of institutions and from many different fields. Could you speak to us a little bit about what it takes to work on a digital project like this, and how the team really made the project be as amazing as it sounds?
Yes, thank you. So yes, indeed, as I said before, for this kind of project, you need a mixed teams of archaeologists, Egyptologists, but also scholars, individuals skilled in IT, computer, software, and technique. And so this is why it was great to have students of computer science to work with my graduate students of Egyptologists. So I think it's impossible right now to have a project like that with only humanists. And indeed, that's the great thing of digital humanities, is that you learn as a humanist also to work with scholars with a different background, and you learn a lot. I mean, I learned a lot. I even learned a bit to use these softwares, of course. I had to.
Yeah, on that note, we have a question from our audience, firstly saying that this is incredible. And they're wondering what software you used in the creation of these various programs. And they're curious about what challenges you faced in the course of this project.
Yes, so yes, indeed, I forgot to say that for the photogrammetry, for just realizing the 3D models of the coffins, we use right now Agisoft Metashape, which was called earlier Photoscan. It's now Metashape, which is right now I think the best, one of the best software to use on Mac. We work on Mac computers. There are other softwares also for PC, but with photogrammetry, photogrammetry is really optimal for objects, three-dimensional objects of this size, since you can go really around with your camera, take all the photos you need, and then the software will create the model. Another technique is the scanning also the objects, but I think it works better with the smaller objects, or you can combine the two techniques. But we use for our coffins only Metashape, so photogrammetry, while in order to build the app, that becomes a bit more complicated, because you have to mix more software. The basic software for the app is Unity, which is also the main VR software used today, but you need, of course, to use other software in order to embed the 3D model of the sarcophagus with the text annotations within Unity. So, and these are Blender, for instance, programs called like Blender, and other very specific softwares. There are many challenges, because where we learn a lot while doing this, we also make sure to have a written documentation when we write exactly the process, what we learned from that, which were the mistakes, so that next time we can use what we learned to do better. And for instance, with photogrammetry as well, you really need also good photographer, somebody who really knows also about lighting. Digital photography is also kind of different from normal photography. So there is now actually a new specialization also in design or art studies, which is about the digital design or digital photography.
Thanks. That was
I hope this
I'm
answered.
sure there's different challenges for every new software that you're encountering. We also have some questions here about the specific history of the sarcophagus that we're looking at in this video in this tomb. There's some questions here about, the question from the viewer is, can we speculate about how far away from the tomb the sarcophagus was created and how far it had to travel to get to the tomb? And also, was there a sarcophagus studio or factory that specialized in making these objects, or was it made specifically for this tomb?
Yeah, no, there was definitely a workshop, because we have more of this kind of sarcophagi created in the same period. So indeed, in order to, I'm currently working also on a printed article on this sarcophagus lid, and I had to compare my work with that of other Egyptologists who've been publishing similar sarcophagi. There is also a catalog on this kind of typology, which is always the same. So having a main protective text on the lid, and this outer sarcophagi contained other coffins as well. So it was a system of nesting the deceased within more sarcophagi. And since this, we don't know. There have been some recent archaeological discoveries that found also real workshops, spaces for burial material, but it's still everything is still very new. We don't know much, but it may also, it should be that the sarcophagi were made in loco, so very close to the tomb. I don't think that they will do it in a different place that is not around the necropolis, or even, of course, to bring it back in the tomb was already a big job. I'm not sure if a sculptor, if an artist could have been working in the tomb in that specific, very closed and dark environment. I'm not, but I don't have any archaeological evidence for that. These are a bit open questions still.
And we're running out of time, but I just want to make sure that we have time to hear a little bit more about what the plans are for the development of this project in the future. And maybe if you could just speak briefly on what kind of more broadly the current state is of Egyptological research using these digital techniques.
Sure. So my dream will be that this app will become a model for reconstructing the archaeological context of objects lying now in museums, separated from their place of origin and belonging. But of course, this is a very ambitious project, since working with VR software requires specific data sets and process that varies according to the context. So from the specific scale, shape of a tomb to the landscape where it is placed. So every time is a new process of learning. But as I said, we are documenting as much as possible and see if we can make it as a sort of model app that can be then adapted, used also for more, for different objects, not necessarily coffins. And right now, I'm happy to say that Egyptology is making a lot of progress in the use of digital techniques. There are digital projects that use not only 3D tools, but also other digital approach to different kind of sources. So we can speak today of digital epigraphy, digital restoration techniques, digital cultural heritage preservation in Egypt. And we have a number of scholars involved in this kind of research all over the world, in Europe, in Egypt, in the US. And we had the first international conference as well on ancient Egypt and new technology at the University of Bloomington in Indiana last year, which has seen hundreds of participants between faculty, students, interested audience. And I'm now editing the proceedings of that conference together with my colleagues Joshua Robertson from Memphis and Steve Vinson from Bloomington. So we are already thinking of a second edition of such a conference to hold possibly in person after the pandemic. Also, digital humanists still like to take part to in-person conference. Not everything should be digital, right? So my hope is that indeed we can keep developing these techniques, and that Egyptology can really benefit a lot from digital humanities. So
that's great. That's so exciting to hear. It seems like there's so much potential for growth in this area. So
thank you. And before closing, anyway, I want to thank the Phoebe A Hearst Museum of Anthropology for having been all the time a real great partner in this project, and the whole museum staff, including you, Katie, helping a lot in developing the Book of the Dead in 3D project, and now also helping to advertise this new VR project on Psamtek.
Well, we're so excited about this work, and I realize that not all of these links are in the YouTube description, but we'll be sure to add them later. Links to the website 3dcoffins.berkeley.edu, as well as links to the Hearst Museum's portal, where you can view 3D objects that were created in collaboration with this project, as well as other models of 3D objects. So I'll just thank you again so much for being here today, Rita, and thank you to our viewers and all of those who submitted really great questions.
Thank you. Also, I wish to thank the CITRIS Banatao Institute of UC Berkeley for sponsoring the VR app. Thanks to them, we started all this, and we hope to continue it.
That's wonderful. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful day. I'll also ask everyone who's watching today, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to complete the feedback survey, which is linked in the description of this video to help us improve these programs in the future. And we look forward to seeing many of you tomorrow at noon for our next episode of Ask an Archaeologist, which is going to be a conversation with Erin Brody of the Bade Museum. So thank you so much again, and have a wonderful rest of your day.